I've come over to Start Point this morning. Well, actually, it's nearly this afternoon. This is out on the South Devon coast. Nice little lighthouse on the end. I'm kind of breaking the landscape cardinal rule of shooting practically in the middle of the day, but I have got a reason for this, which I shall share with you in a minute. So I'm walking down now. The wind isn't too bad at the moment, which is good. I'm not sure what it'll be like on the other side, but we'll see. Not much cloud around, but it's looking fairly promising. What a location! You can see the lighthouse in the distance there. Great place to shoot from. Loads of water rushing in around the foreground here. I'm down here to demonstrate these filters. I've got a Lee big stopper, little stopper, and a super stopper. Now the little stopper, that gives you 6 stops, an extra 6 stops exposure. The big stopper is 10 stops, and the super stopper is 15 stops. I've purposely come down here sort of in the middle of the day because I know these filters extend exposure quite a bit. Normally I'd shoot at dawn and dusk where light levels are low anyway, but some of these, especially the super stopper, I mean, for instance, if I had a base exposure of 1 second, the super stopper, that would equate to an 8.5 hour exposure. As much as I like this location, I don't particularly want to be sat here for 8.5 hours. So I'll go through the basic process of setting the camera up, setting the shot up with regards to using these filters, and then hopefully, if my plans work out, I shall do some side-by-side comparisons of the same shot with different filters. Okay, I've got my shot set up here. So I've got this nice foreground run-in here where the waves are coming in and out. I've basically got my camera set up at f/16 for the depth of field, and my exposure is 1/30th of a second at f/16. Now that's on ISO 200. I want to sort of purposefully get it around that sort of exposure because I don't want to be stood here for 8 hours. So basically that gives me my base exposure. Now on the front of the camera I've got 2 filters in place already. I've got a 1-stop graduate filter, a soft grad, just down across the sky there, so it's coming in across where at an angle where the lighthouse is, which is just there. That's holding back a bit of brightness in the sky. The second filter I've got on is a polarizer. Again, the polarizer is taking the glare off the water, but it's also extending exposure a bit as well. So with those filters in place, I'm now ready to place the filters. The first one I'll try is the little stopper. So if I read off my range of exposures here, which is a little handy little card they give you, you can see that there. Now on the little stopper, a 1/30th of a second equates to a 2-second exposure with the filter in place. So I'll put that one in place now and give it a go and see what results I get. Also bear in mind, I've started the shoot here with a shot without any ND filters on, so just a standard sort of exposure, which is my base exposure is 1/30th of a second at f/16. Have a look at this shot. This shows you what it's like, shows you the water movement as it is, basically. Now the big stopper next. The exposure equates to a 30-second exposure with the big stopper in place. when you start getting into those kind of exposures, especially in the middle of the day and either end of the day, you can get a colour shift, which can cause a bit of a problem. I always shoot in RAW, which doesn't really matter because you can alter it at the processing stage, post-process stage. But I do like to actually dial in a bit more warmth while I'm actually shooting. It just gives you a bit more confidence to make sure that the shot looks okay in camera. You can then alter this at a later stage in post-production. So basically I dialed in, on the Kelvin setting, I've dialed in about 6,500 Kelvin, which basically takes that blue colour cast off the picture and gives it a bit more warmth. Now each of these ND filters have a gasket on the back of the filter. I don't know if you can see that, it's a foam gasket. Now when you place these filters in the holder, that gasket's got to sit against the back of the holder, which basically creates a light tight seal. So bear that in mind if you're using filters as I am here. Any other filters have got to be further forward, so they leave a gap for your ND filter. So place this one in, make sure it's sat down nice and snug and square, and the seal's perfectly protected from any light leakage. As an extra precaution, you can always shield the front of the lens just to stop any sort of stray light bouncing around. And now it's time for the super stopper. This thing's as black as your hat. Now a 30-second base exposure turns this exposure into 16 minutes. So it's a good job I bought my flask and a donut. So I'm going to take this shot, sit down, enjoy the view, eat my donut, have my cup of tea, and hopefully it'll come out okay. That donut was handsome. I know what they call them, yum-yums now. When you use the super stopper, and it goes beyond the 30-second reach of your exposure meter in your camera, or any filter basically, you have to go into bulb mode. This will increase exposure to as long as you want basically. I've got a timer here which gives me a countdown or count up to let me know the exposure. But in this situation, a 16-minute exposure. I've basically set my alarm on my phone just in case I fall asleep. A couple of things to bear in mind when you're using extreme ND filters. One is having a decent support, decent tripod. You have to keep everything sort of tightened up and splayed out so it's nice and solid. We're talking about sort of major big exposure times, so any slight movement will ruin the shot. And also autofocus, turn it off. If you're using these big stoppers, little stoppers, or the super stopper, the autofocus will hunt through the filter. It can't sort of focus through it. So turn that off, focus manually, do all your focusing before you put the filter into place. And three is more sort of compositionally and more sort of thinking about the shot that you're after and what you're going to get, knowing how the filter reacts to certain situations. I mean here, I've chosen this particular viewpoint to demonstrate this filter because of the way the waves are coming in and out. I know that the movement of the water, the foam on the top of the water picks up in the shot, and you get a nice trail going through. So yeah, just think about sort of composition and where you're setting up as well. So that's enough waffle from me. I'm going to crack on and use these filters. I'm going to try a few viewpoints here this afternoon, see what I can get. Hopefully you can join me while I'm doing that. sat here now, just waiting for the sun to drop. It's probably got another hour or so yet, I would have thought, before it starts getting nice and warm light. My plan is to get out on this little, well, it's not an island, but when the tide drops, the waves are coming up over these rocks here, and it's great. It looks really nice, especially with a long exposure. Just in this channel here, you can see there's a seal keeps bobbing up and down, wondering what I'm doing. So yeah, it's great. Just sat here, soaking it up. Lovely. Can't beat it. Well, that was fun, and it's great, unbelievable. I'm going to finish up here now, waiting for the last of the light. I'm glad I stuck around for a few hours, and made all the difference, the light. Got some great shots. It was a bit precarious on the edge there, but I waited for the tide to go out, so I was fairly confident. My escape route back up to here as well was clear, so fantastic. Really enjoyed it today. Make sure you subscribe if you want to sort of follow what I'm doing. Give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down, whatever. Comments, say all appreciated. I hope you enjoyed this. See you next time.